Hello, welcome to this Technocamps tutorial on Adobe Animate. In this tutorial, we will be looking at animating with nested symbols. So we'll explore the difference between graphic symbols and movie clip symbols, look at when it is best to use each, and learn how to use movie clip symbols to store animations to make the project timeline more manageable. So symbols can contain their own animations, but anytime you do this, it's a good idea to be using movie clip symbols as opposed to graphic symbols. Symbols that contain their own animations can be added onto the main animation stage without adding that symbol's animation onto the main timeline, so making the timeline easier to manage. So throughout the tutorial, we will stick with the rule that if we want to create a symbol that does not contain its own animation, so a static image, then we'll create it as a graphic symbol. But when we want to create a symbol that contains an animation, then we will create it as a movie clip symbol. So remember, movie clip symbols play independently of the main timeline. So the length of the movie clip animation is not affected by the length of the main timeline. However, with a graphic symbol, if it contains its own animation and that animation is longer than the main timeline, then the full animation will not play because the animation inside the graphic symbol and the length of the main timeline do not match up, so they're not in sync. Here's an example of the animation that we will be aiming to create. So in the task, we're going to be animating a mountain scene that includes flowers, a cloud, and the sun. So all of the animations will be nested in symbols, so they'll continually loop on the main timeline, and on the main timeline, they'll only take up one frame. Now, as we go through the steps, some parts of the process of creating this animation may seem a bit complicated or unnecessary, as we will be creating symbols out of symbols. But the aim is to create an animation that is easy to manage and easy to make alterations to. Now, if you look at the flowers in the animation, each flower is the same symbol, it's just a different instance of the same symbol. The flowers are made up of 5 parts: the 2 leaves, the stem, the petals, and the middle. So we'll start off by making each of these parts as graphic symbols, and then each time we want to animate one of those parts or a group of those parts, we'll turn that symbol or group of symbols into a movie clip symbol that can contain an animation. Animating objects with multiple moving parts that move independently of each other can be really tricky, and it takes a lot of breaking down, so decomposing the object that you're trying to animate. So that's what we're going to be doing in the tutorial, going through those steps. So when we talk about objects with multiple moving parts, we can think about these flowers on the screen. So the leaves move up and down independently, the petals in the middle rotate together, and the stem and the petals in the middle sway together. So there's 4 animations contained within this one image. Or you could think of something like a person jumping up and down and waving. The whole body is moving up and down, while the arm is swaying side to side and the fingers are wiggling. Or you could think of something like a car approaching a set of traffic lights and stopping. So the whole car moves forwards, the wheels rotate and stop, the car body bobs, showing that the engine is on, and the exhaust emits petrol fumes. So again, we've got lots of little animations happening within one whole animation. Let's look at a storyboard plan of the animation. So this storyboard doesn't contain a lot of detail because the scene we are creating does not contain lots of different animations. It contains the same 3 animations looping over and over again. So we've got the flowers with their little independent animations happening. So the leaves moving up and down, the petals turning, and the stem and the petals swaying. We've got the sun in its rays rotating, and we've got the cloud moving from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen. And in this storyboard, we've broken each of those down to show a bit more detail. Okay, so when you're planning your animations, it's a good idea to be creating storyboards, creating plans of what you intend to create, and showing the steps you plan to go through. And in this example, we're showing the different parts of each of the animations we're creating. Now let's get into creating our animation with nested symbols. So we'll make a new file, file new. We'll go with the HD preset, the frame rate to 24 frames per second, and the platform type ActionScript 3.0. Let's save the file. and we'll call it Animate with nested symbols. And as always, I like to fit the stage to the window, make sure we got enough room for the timeline to be viewed. Now let's name the first layer. So I'm going to start off creating the flowers, so I'm going to call this first layer flower. So the first shapes that we're going to create are the different parts of the flower, and for this you can use any of the drawing tools you want. I'm going to go with the fluid brush tool because I like the effect that it gives. So I'll start off with the leaves. So I'll go for the right leaf first and do a light green fill. Now you can, in the tools property window, in the tool properties window here, you can be editing the properties of the fluid brush tool. So making the size thicker or thinner. This is a really good tool to use for drawing different objects, writing text. Okay, so it's worth playing about with these sliders to see what different effects you can create. Okay, so this is the tool that I've got. I like that effect, so I'm going to use that to draw my leaves. And I'll use the fill tool to fill it in. Okay, there's my right leaf. I'm happy with that. So I'll use the tool again, and I'll change the fill this time to draw a bit darker to draw my left leaf. Now I'm not going to draw it overlapping my first shape, because if I do and then move it, it will affect the shape. So be careful where you're drawing. Even though you're drawing different parts of the same object here, just make sure they're not overlapping. And then the paint bucket tool to fill it in. Okay, the stem, so the center, I'll go with another green. And just draw a line. Now for this, if you want to use the line tool to draw that line, that would be fine. Okay, it's up to you what kind of tools you prefer using. And then I'll draw the center. Now as you can see, I drew it there and it overlapped the line, so that was a bad idea. I was just trying to see the size of it, size of what I was drawing. I suppose here we could be using the oval tool, but I was using the brush tool. And then the petals, so I'll go with a pinky orange color. Went a bit wild on the end. Okay, let's have a look. I don't like the way that's gone there, so I'm going to use the selection tool here and manipulate that corner, bring it in a bit. There you go, that looks better. Okay, so after you've drawn your shapes, that selection tool is really useful for manipulating and changing. Right, I'm going to select the middle and drag it over just to see how it lines up. Yeah, that lines up well, but I'm going to undo that movement because I don't want it to delete the parts of the petal. So I've broken the petal down into all of its parts, those 5 parts: left leaf, right leaf, stem, middle, and petals. So now I'm going to take all of these and convert them separately into graphic symbols. So select, and then remember we got a couple of ways to convert to symbols. We can right click on a shape, convert to symbol. We can modify, convert to symbol, or we can select the symbol and press F8 on the keyboard. Now these are going to be my initial instances of each part of the flower. They're going to be static, so I'm going to create them as graphic symbols. Now this is my right leaf, so I'm going to call it leaf underscore R. Now my left leaf, leaf underscore L, make sure it's a graphic. Now my stem And I'm just pressing F8 on the keyboard to quickly create these. Stem, there's a graphic. My middle, there's a graphic. And my petals, F8, as a graphic symbol. Right, so let's line these up and see how they look. Now that I've turned them into symbols, it doesn't matter if they overlap, it's not going to affect the different shapes and delete parts or merge parts together. Now my middle is behind my petals, so I'm going to go to Modify, Arrange, Bring to Front, so that I can see that middle overlap in the petals. I'm going to do the same with my right leaf, Modify, Arrange, Bring to Front, just to reorder my symbols. The order they're in now is not going to affect the final outcome, because when we finish we'll reorder them, and as we do different animations it will affect the order, so we're just changing those now to see how it looks. Okay, so I'm happy with the way this is looking, so I think we're ready to start animating. So remember, we've got a number of different animations going on within this flower. We are going to have this left leaf rotating up and down, but not around the center point. You see where it's rotating there? We'll have to change the point of reference. We're going to have this right leaf moving up and down, again not around the center point. We're going to make the petals and the middle rotate together, and then we'll make the petals, the middle and the stem sway together. Okay, so an animation here with multiple moving parts that work independently of each other, but they come together to form one animation of one object. Now I'm going to start off with the right leaf. So if I select it and look in the library, so remember I created the right leaf as a graphic symbol. So if I double click it to enter that symbol's timeline, we will now see the shape that I used to create the symbol. Now I don't want to be animating the shape, because when we animate shapes to rotate, remember if we want to animate a shape we've got to use a shape tween, and shape tweens don't deal well with rotations. It'll try to morph the shape as opposed to rotating it. Okay, so I'm eliminating that. I'm not going to animate the shape using a shape tween. So if I'm not using a shape tween, I've got to use a motion or a motion or a classic tween. So I'm going to return to the main timeline, to scene 1 up here. And the way I'm going to do this, I've converted it to a graphic symbol. Now I'm going to convert that graphic symbol into a movie clip symbol. And that movie clip symbol is going to hold the graphic symbol that holds the shape. And inside the movie clip is where we're going to be animating the graphic symbol. So let's have a look. I'll select this right leaf, I'll press F8, I'll make sure I select movie clip. Now I've already given this part of the flower a name, leaf R. So to tell that it's my movie clip, my animation, I'm going to call it leaf _R_ ANI, short for animation. Or maybe I could call it leaf _R_MC, short for movie clip. Now this is not something you have to do, but what it will do is make the animations easier to spot in the library. Now I know that the movie clips and graphic clips have different symbols, but sometimes it just makes it a little bit more clear when you label each of the animated symbols with something like this at the end. Okay, so I'm going to go OK. Right, now as we can see here in the library, we've got the leaf R, which is the graphic, and the leaf R ANI, which is the movie clip. So if I double click this now, I'm opening up the movie clip symbol, and I can see the graphic symbol. And if I double click this now, I'm opening up the graphic symbol, and I can see the shape, the original shape used. Okay, so we got a number of levels of abstraction here. Okay, we're getting deeper down into the symbol until we reach the shape. So I'm going to return to the main scene, the main timeline. I'm going to enter that graphic symbol again. Sorry, I'm going to enter the movie clip symbol again. And this is where I'm going to create my animation. So I'll name the layer leaf R animation. Okay, so as we said, this leaf is going to be rotating up and down, only a very slight animation. Okay, nothing major, just a small animation that's going to contribute to the overall effect. So before I'm going to animate it, I need to change that point of reference, because at the moment it's rotating around the center, so it doesn't look very realistic. So using the free transform tool, I'm going to grab that white dot in the middle and bring it down to where I want the leaf rotating about. And so I'm choosing the bottom left part of the leaf where it connects to the stem and to the left leaf. Now if I rotate the symbol, as you can see, it's rotating around that bottom left corner. Okay, so it looks more realistic based on the point about which it rotates. Okay, now I need to think about how long I want the animation to last. So I'm going to want it to start here, rotate up to there, and then rotate back. So that's 3 steps. So step 1 here, step 2 there, step 3 back to the start. So I'm going to insert keyframes along my timeline for each of those 3 steps. Now I've already got my first keyframe by default, so I need to insert 2 more keyframes. And the reason I'm going to insert the keyframes at the same time, not make a movement and then insert a new keyframe afterwards, is because I know I want my final point to be the same as my starting point. And I know I want my middle point to be based on the starting point. So if I create all of my keyframes with the same position, then it just makes it a little bit easier for me to move to the points that I want. So I'm going to make this animation last for 10 seconds. So I'll insert a keyframe at 5. So I can click there and right click, insert keyframe, or I can select the frame and press F6 on the keyboard to insert a keyframe. And then I'm going to insert one up at 10. Okay, so frame 1 and 10, sorry, not frame 10, it's frame 1, and then it's at 10 seconds, which is frame 240. So frames 1 and 240 I'm leaving as they are. That's my start and end point. But the frame at 5 seconds, 120, I'm going to rotate up slightly. Okay, so there's my points of my animation. I don't need to do anything else now because I'm going to leave the rest up to Animate. I'm going to use a tween and use its artificial intelligence so it can predict the middle points of the animation. Now, because this is just a simple point-to-point rotation, I'm going to go with the simple tween of classic tween. So I'm going to right-click between the first and second keyframe and create a classic tween. And right-click between the second and third keyframes and again create a classic tween. And go to frame 1 and play my animation. So as you can see, it's very subtle, rotating up slowly, I guess to the top point, and then it rotates back down. Nice and simple. Okay, so that's the right leaf animated. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that movement. Now we're going to go to the left leaf and do exactly the same. So return to scene 1. And I'm going to select the left leaf. And once again, I'm going to take this graphic symbol and convert it into a movie clip symbol. So the movie clip is going to hold the graphic symbol, that's going to hold the shape. So I've selected it, F8. I'm going to stick with a movie clip and I'm going to call this leaf underscore L underscore Annie. Okay. And again then I can look in my library and I can see I've got my leaf L graphic symbol and my leaf L Annie movie clip symbol. So I'm going to do exactly the same now, but I'm going to change the timing a bit just so my leaves are not moving perfectly in sync with each other. So double click the movie clip symbol. So as you can see, we've entered here, we can tell, and we've got a new layer. So leaf underscore L underscore animation, so the left leaf animation. Free transform tool. Let's change the point of reference down to where it meets the stem and the other leaf. Okay, now I just need to decide on my point. So start there, move up to there, and then rotate back. So that's 3 points, just like the right leaf. But as we said, I'm going to change the duration. I'll go for 14 seconds here. So I'll add a keyframe at 7 seconds. And then another keyframe at 14 seconds. I'm doing this rather than inserting a keyframe at 7 and then moving, and then inserting a keyframe at 14 and then moving it back. Just eliminates the need for me to move my leaf back to the beginning at the end. Okay, and I don't even have to think about where it's going to end. Okay, so frame at 7 seconds. We're going to have a slight rotation up. You could make it down if you wanted, up to you. So not too high, but there. And then either side of that middle keyframe, I'm going to insert my classic tween. And play my animation. Again, even more subtle than the right leaf. Okay, we don't want a flower that's moving up and down really noticeably, because flowers don't work like that, do they? Okay, so just a subtle movement up and then a subtle movement back down. Done. Okay, so let's return to scene 1 and let's play our animation. So remember, if we play it, because we've created those animations inside movie clip symbols, they're independent of the main timeline. And if you look at the main timeline, it's only 1 frame long, so there's no animation playing. If I want to view my leaves moving, I need to go up to the top right and test my movie. And there I can see those 2 leaves swaying gently. Next step. So the other animations we've got are the petals and the middle rotating together, and then the petals, the middle and the stem swaying together. So because the petals in the middle are going to move with the stem, I'm going to animate the petals in the middle first, and then put that animation into a group with the stem, and then animate the swaying. Okay, so we're doing the rotation of the petals in the middle first. Now these are 2 separate symbols, and it's not a good idea to be animating separate symbols together, just because Animate doesn't like that, and if you try to do it, it'll ask you to merge the symbols together into a new symbol anyway. So I'm going to eliminate Animate asking me that by taking these 2 symbols and putting them into a symbol together. So I'm selecting the petals, and then I'm holding down Shift and selecting the middle, or I could have drawn a box to select the 2, but that selects my stem as well, and I don't want the stem. Just the petal, hold down Shift and the middle. So I'm going to create a graphic symbol out of this first, and then convert the graphic symbol into a movie clip symbol, following the same steps that I did with the 2 leaves. So F8, this is going to be my graphic, and it's going to be called my petal middle. Now, if you're getting a bit confused about whether to choose a graphic or whether to choose a movie clip, just remember, if the symbol is not going to contain its own animation, go for a graphic. If the symbol is going to contain its own animation, go for a movie clip. If in doubt, just go for a movie clip anyway, okay? Because you're eliminating the possibility of the graphic symbol not animating on the main timeline then. Okay, so there's my 1 symbol containing those 2 symbols. Now, because it's a graphic, I don't want it to contain an animation, so I'm going to convert this into another symbol, F8, and this is going to be my movie clip. So this is petal, middle, Annie. So this is what I was talking about earlier on, about maybe some of the steps seeming a bit long-winded or unnecessary, but this is the best way to go about avoiding graphic symbols interfering with the main timeline are not playing properly, and just making sure that any animation contained within a symbol is going to play. Okay, so this is ready. This is my movie clip that contains my graphics. I'm going to double click it. Okay, so now we're into the petal middle animation. I'm going to rename the layer petal middle animation. Right, so as we said, this is going to be a rotation, and because this is now is containing that graphic symbol of the two combined, if I try to animate it, I'm not going to get prompted to convert the two separate symbols into a new symbol anyway. Okay, so I just avoided that step. So to create this rotation, we can use a classic or a motion tween, but for this I'm going to use a motion tween. So I'm going to right click on frame 1 and apply a motion tween, create a motion tween. And I'm going to click on the 24th frame. I'm going to go into the frame properties window, go down to the tweening section, and I'm going to choose rotate. At the moment it's set to none. I'm going to change it to clockwise. So my petals in the middle are going to rotate clockwise. I'm going to leave the count as 1, so it's just going to make 1 rotation. And let's view it. Okay, great. So there's my petal and middle rotating together. As you can see, it's way too fast. So really simply, we can just grab the end of the tween in between frames 24 and 25 and drag it out to however long we want it to be. So I'm going to go for quite long. Let's go out to 20 seconds. Okay, so again, making it very subtle. You could make it longer than that if you wanted. Maybe that's a little bit fast, but I'm happy with that. Okay, so there's my 20-second rotation. So my petals and middle are now completed. I'm going to rotate to the main scene. And if we want to play it to view it, we can test the movie. And there's our flower taking shape. Okay, let's finish off now with animating the middle with the petals, swaying with the stem. So following those same steps, the same rules we were saying, we're going to combine, so select together the symbols we want to animate together. So that's this symbol now, which remember is only 1 because we converted the 2 into 1. So the middle petal and middles together, select with the stem, so they got that blue container around them. So let's convert it to a graphic first, and then use that graphic to convert to a movie clip, so we can animate the graphic inside the movie clip. So F8. So I'll go for graphic, and we'll call this body, because it's the body of the flower. So there it is as one symbol. So I'm going to select it again, and F8, body Annie. So I'm sticking with our rule of ending each symbol with underscore Annie, and I'm making a movie clip. Okay, now let's open this up. So we got our our timeline within the movie clip. Let's call layer 1 body animation. So free transform tool, this is just going to be swaying gently back and forth. But as you can see, the point of reference is in the center, so it's rotating about the center. So using the free transform tool, let's bring it down to the bottom of the stem, there. Now let's try rotating. Yeah, brilliant, that's what we want. Okay, so let's think about this one a little bit more, because this is a little bit more complicated than the leaves. So we'll start in this upright position. We'll rotate over to one side. We'll rotate back to the middle and then over to the other side. So one movement, and then we'll come back up to the middle. So we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Or if you wanted to simplify a little bit more, you could say, you could take out that middle point. Okay, so we're going to start, go to the right, for my example, I'm going to come back to the middle, but if you want to leave that out, that's fine. So we got, and then we go to the other side, and then back to the middle. Okay, how long should we make this last? Well, if we think about it, I want a number that's easy to split into 4. So if we take 20, for example, as starter, so frame 1 would be here, frame 5 would be there, frame 10, frame 15, frame 20, we're back to the beginning. Okay, so a number that is easily divisible by 4. So 10 frames, for example, we'd have to be going 2.5 and 7.5, which we can't do. Okay, so we want to avoid that. So let's go out to 40 seconds we'll go for. Okay, so I'm going to split 40 into 4. So quarter it, because I've got those 4 points I need to achieve, including the first frame, which is already done. So I'll insert a keyframe at 10 seconds, a keyframe at 20 seconds, a keyframe at 30 seconds, and then a keyframe at 40 seconds. Okay, so frame 1 you're staying as you are. The frame 240 at 10 seconds, that's where we're going to rotate slightly to the right. Now frame 480 at 20 seconds is as it should be because I added the frames before moving. Now let's go to 30 seconds. So 720 and rotate it slightly to the left. So by choosing that number that was divisible by 4 and then splitting it up into those 4 parts on those keyframes, I'm keeping each section of the animation equal. So each section is 10 seconds, so hopefully it should look quite natural as it's moving, and one part isn't faster than the other. Okay, and then at 40 seconds we're ending back to the middle. Done. Okay, again, because it's just a simple sway, we'll go for classic tweens. So right clicking in between each keyframe and applying the classic tween. If I really wanted to, I could highlight the entire length of the animation and apply the classic tween at once. It's up to you how you prefer doing it. Okay, let's view it. So this is going to be very subtle again. Slowly swaying to the right. Then when we get to 10 seconds, it's hit this point and it's going to come back to the left. Okay, looking good. I'm going to extend out to 20, back to the middle, yeah. So all I'm doing here is clicking on the frame I want to test and then clicking enter on the keyboard, so I'm not viewing the entire animation. Okay, 30 seconds there and we're coming back to the right, brilliant. And let's view the last second. Yeah, we're coming back to the middle. Okay, nice. Right, so let's return to the main scene, the main timeline, and let's view our animation. Okay, so looking good. We got the leaves moving up and down, we got the petals rotating, and we've got the stem and the petals swaying together. Now, as you can see, the arrangement is a little off, so we're just going to rearrange them and then finish off the flower. So on the main timeline here, we've got 1, 2, 3 different symbols made up of those 5 different original shapes. Okay, so I'm going to rearrange the order. So this left leaf I want right at the back. Modify arrange center back, and this right leaf I want at the front. Modify arrange bring to front. Let's just select them and use the arrow keys to move them around to find the position we want. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Let's just view it quickly. There we go, nice. Okay, so there's my flower completed, but just to finish it off and make it easier to manage, because look, if I want to move this flower now, I've got separate parts. I'm going to have to move them. I'm going to have to select them all together and move them. So to make this better and to make this asset reusable and not something we got to build each time, let's select every part of the flower together. So the left leaf, the body and the right leaf, and let's convert it into a symbol. So F8. Now this symbol is not going to contain any animation. So I'm going to make it as a graphic symbol because all my animation is done now in the other symbols. And I'm going to call this a flower. And I'm going to click OK. So there's my completed flower. I can move it, I can drag it, and it's all one part. I can play my animation and it plays all those different parts. Now within this project, we can bring from the library multiple instances of this flower in, and they're all going to be playing when I click play, animating together. But one thing to note is that if you wanted to reuse this asset in different projects, we can do that by copying the asset from the library and pasting it into other projects. Now, you could put all of these into a folder, its own folder within the library, and then copy the folder to make it more manageable. Okay, but you can see this as a reusable asset that you can use anywhere. Now, if you wanted to export this flower as an actual animated flower, then you would need to convert this into a movie clip, which I'll show you quickly. So I'm going to delete each of these instances. Okay, so if I go to my symbol here in the library, my flower, if I right click, I can't export the SWF. So if I want to be able to export the SWF and have a file of the animated flower, I would need to select it all, F8 to convert to a symbol. I'd need to make it a movie clip. I'll call it Flower Annie. And then in my library, if I right click on that, I can now export the file, the animation. Okay, so Flower 2, save. And there I've got an animation of that flower exported that I could use for whatever I wanted to. Okay, but within the file, that didn't really matter. That wasn't important to the file itself. So let's put all of these flower parts into this own folder so our library is easier to manage. So in the library window, let's add a folder, new folder, and we'll call it flower parts. And I'm going to select every part of the flower and drag and drop into the flower parts folder. Okay, now that's easy for me to manage, it's there. Okay, I haven't got loads and loads of different symbols showing up in the library, so as we add more, they're all bunched together. It just makes it easier to manage. Okay, so the flower's done. Happy with that. As we said, we can add multiple instances in and we can use them as we want. So let's carry on with the animation with the project. Let's lock that layer. We'll add a new layer for the background. Now the background is going to be very simple. I will just draw some mountains. Now drawing these mountains, okay, we're going to use some curves. You've got a couple of different options. You could use the paintbrush, fluid brush tool or the paintbrush tool and choose your shade of green. I'm going to go for green. Now that's different to the flower. I'm going to do it slightly darker, I think. Yeah. So you could be creating your mountain there freehand, but then if you want to fill the color, you'll need to close the shape. You could use circles and draw multiple circles to build up the mountain. Or you could use the pen tool and draw the jagged lines that you could then, so you've got a shape, you can fill it, and then you can use the selection tool to manipulate those lines to create the mountain you want. Okay, so create your mountain as you want. Sorry. I'm going to get rid of them because I'm going to go for the using circles. So I'll use the oval tool. I don't want a stroke color, so I'm just going to use this green that I chose. Okay, just a bunch of different circles. It don't matter how many you use because it's all going to be on the same layer. They're all going to get merged together. And it doesn't matter if they overlap the edge because that's not going to be shown in the animation. And if you really wanted to, you could use the selection tool, select the bit that's overlapping and delete it. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, so I'm going to carry on with my mountain range. Nothing too complicated, just a few circles. Anything that looks a bit off, like it looks a bit odd, like that there, mountain wouldn't look like that. I'll just fill it in and change it a bit. Okay, I can then use the selection tool and make any adjustments that I want. So go into the corners. I want to keep it there. Okay, that looks alright. Nothing special, but you can tell it's mountains. Okay, so I am going to actually use the selection tool to select the edges outside the stage and delete them. Now this isn't necessary, but if those edges are bothering you, or if you think it's going to affect your animation and you don't want it there, you can just do that and get rid of them. Okay, so my order of my flower and my background layer is wrong, so I'm going to grab the background layer and drag it down. I haven't got a sky color now, but that's just the white of the stage, so I'm going to go to the document properties and change the stage color to a blue for the sky, and the scene's coming together. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for the background. We'll lock it now because we don't need to change it. So let's go back to the flower layer and lock it, and let's make the flower look a bit more realistic within the mountain range. So I've used the free transform tool, and I'm going to hold down shift and reduce the size and scale it. So if I don't hold down shift, as you can see, it goes out of proportion. We lose the aspect ratio. So if I keep holding shift on my keyboard as I'm reducing the size, I maintain that proportion or the aspect ratio. Okay, and then I can move it. I want more than one flower actually. I think it's going to look better with multiple flowers. So I could go to the library. I could find that symbol called flower_Annie and drag it in. Or the other thing I could do is select the flower there and hold on Alt on the keyboard and drag, and that automatically copies. Okay, so we'll go for about 6. Now the flowers at the front, we're going to make slightly bigger than the flowers further back. So use the free transform tool to sort out the size of your flowers. So this one is a little bit further back, so we'll make it a little bit smaller. Smaller again. That's gone off the mountain, so I'll just use my arrow keys to bring it back down. And then this one here at the back is the smallest of all because it's the farthest away. There we go. Okay, let's see how it looks. We'll click play. And there's my mountain scene with my flowers animating. Different sizes, the same instance of the one symbol, so that's that reusable asset. So once I've done the work once, I don't have to do the work again. It's done and I can reuse it. Okay, so we've used multiple instances of that asset, but we can change it a bit. Now you can't change the colors completely, because if you do, it will change the color of the original flower, and all the colors will change together. So let's have a look at an example of that. So I'm going to change the color of the petals. So I'm going to double click into this flower here, this first one, and I'm going to keep clicking all the way down until I get to the petals. Okay, so you can see up here how many times I went down into the symbols to get to that original shape. So I'll select it and I'll go on the fill color. And as you can see, as I overlap different fill colors, the color of all the different petals on the different flowers changes. Now that's because I'm changing the color of the original symbol that's used in all the, the original shape that's used in all the different symbols. Okay, so it's changing that original shape. So let's go for a lilac-y color. Done. So I'm going to go back to scene 1, and there you can see all the flowers have changed. Okay, so it's easy to make those changes. I'm actually going to revert it because I'm going to go back to the original color I chose. I use Control Z then, and it's taken me into the symbol. So I'll go back to the scene. So we can't change the different colors within the flower on the different flowers independently of each other. But what we can do is apply different color effects to the different instances of the flower Annie. So if I click this second one and go to the Object Properties window, I can go to Color Effect, and then I can apply these different effects like Brightness, Tint, Advanced or Alpha. So remember, Alpha is the transparency of it. So I could make the farthest one away a bit transparent, but I'm going to go to Tint. So I'm going to apply different tints to each instance of the flower. Now some of the tints I apply won't look very good because it'll change the colors of the leaves strangely, in a bit of a strange way. So I'm going to keep the leaves as green as I can while changing the colors and making each one look a bit different. So I'm going to do it for every instance of the flower. Try and get some different looks. It doesn't matter if you make your leaves not green because it's an animation, they haven't got to be green, have they? It's up to you. And then if you want to play with some of these sliders here, you can test out what it would look like if you increase the tint, if you decrease the tint. So increasing the tint just makes that flower entirely yellow, which isn't the effect I'm going for. Now I'm going to change this one. I can make it a little bit darker actually, because it's farther away. And then for this one, I'm going to go to the alpha and make it a little bit transparent because it's quite far away. Okay, let's have a look. Play. And there we go. We've got the same symbol being used 6 times. Now, I can't change the color of each symbol individually. If I want to do that, I'd have to make copies of the flower with a copy of each of the different parts of the flower. Okay, and to do that would be complicated and long-winded, so I'm not going to do that. So to get around it, I can just apply color effects to each instance. Right, the flowers are done, I'm happy with them, so I'm going to lock the layer. So next, let's move on to the sun. So add a new layer. This is going to be my sun layer. So for the sun, we're going to make it up of a circle with rays. And the rays in the circle are going to be completely dependent of each other. They're going to be moving together. So there's only going to be one animation made up of numerous shapes. So we'll draw the sun with the rays and then just convert that into a symbol, and then we'll see how we can animate it. So I'm going to use the oval tool and we'll go for a traditional yellow for the sun. I'm going to hold down Shift to draw a perfect circle, and then I'll use the fluid brush tool to draw the rays. Okay, so I've got it selected as yellow. I'll make it a little bit thicker actually, 20 stroke size. And I'm going to go for the north, south, east, west, and then the bits in between. Okay, so there's my sun with the rays coming off. As we said, they're going to be rotating together, so I'm going to select it all. Let's click F8 to convert it to a symbol. Now this first symbol, we're going to make the graphic. And remember what we said, if we wanted to rotate a shape, we'd have to use shape tween, but it doesn't always turn out well because Animate tries to morph. So I'm going to convert it to a graphic first. So there's the sun, and then I'm going to take that sun symbol, F8, and convert it to a sun animation, which is a movie clip. Okay, so let's get into it. So we'll double click on the movie clip and get into the movie clip, and we can see the graphic symbol here. Now let's rename the layer sun animation. Now let's have a look. If we click the free transform tool and rotate this sun and the rays, because I didn't draw the rays perfectly uniformly, the entire symbol is now centralized with the center of the circle. Okay, so as you can see, it moves around slightly, and that's fine. If you wanted to go for that effect, that'd be fine. But I'm gonna try to make the central point, the point of reference, the center point of the circle. So it's gonna be a bit tricky, so I'm gonna maybe have to zoom in a bit. Now if I can't get it perfect, it doesn't matter, but I think that's about in the center. It's not far off the point that it was at, this center point of the entire symbol, but I want it I want that point of reference in this very center point of the circle. Okay, so just like we did for the petals, let's use a motion tween for this. So right click on frame 1 of the timeline, create motion tween, click on frame 24, and here we can go to the frame properties window, go down to tweening, and we can select a rotation effect. Let's go for anti-clockwise, opposite of the petals. We can play, and we can see the sun rotating. It's too fast, so again, like the petals, let's extend it out. So put your cursor between frames 24 and 25. Choose the duration of the sun's rotation. So I'll go for the petals were at 40 seconds, so I'll extend the sun out to a different amount of time. So all the different parts are not constantly at the same position as always. Okay, so all the different animations are not matching up with each other time-wise. So let's make the sun 30. If we play it, okay, quite slow. That's good, that's what we want. Okay, return to the main scene, and we can play the animation. And there it's coming together. We got the mountain scene with the different flowers swaying in the breeze and the sun rotating. And I think we got the center point of the circle quite good there, because the circle looks like it's rotating up from the center point. Okay, so the sun's done. Let's lock that layer, add a new layer for the cloud. Now again, just like we did for the mountains, you can use any drawing tool you want for the cloud. So the brush tool, let's go for a fill of white. Now we could use the bucket tool to fill it, or you could use the oval tool or the pen tool to draw and then manipulate the lines. So I'll go with the fluid brush tool. See how that looks when we fill it. Okay, it's looking okay. Let's use the selection tool and manipulate it a bit. I didn't like that because it created a bit of a point, so I'm going to undo that. And again there. Okay, there's my cloud. I'm okay with that, happy with that. Oh, I forgot to rename the layer, so we'll go down to here and rename it cloud. Okay, now the cloud we're going to animate, and it's going to be moving across the scene from the right to the left. It's going to change its position, so it's going to move from point to point. We're also going to make it change color slightly, and for a bit of realism as an effect, we'll make it change shape slightly, because if you watch clouds in the sky, they do change shape slightly. So to make that effect happen, we can use a shape tween. So let's think about how we should set this up, okay? So rather than creating this cloud now as a graphic symbol and then converting it to a movie clip symbol, I'm going to convert it straight to a movie clip and eliminate the graphic symbol step, because I want this movie clip to contain a shape, because I want the shape to have a shape tween applied. Okay, so I'm working the cloud slightly differently. So I'll select it, we'll choose F8 to convert it to a symbol. Straight away we're going for a movie clip, and I'm going to call it cloud animation. Okay. Right, let's drag it over to the right so it's off the scene. And let's double click to enter the cloud animation. And as you can see here, we're in the new timeline, and we can see there, because of the grey dots on the cloud, it is still a shape. Let's rename the layer cloud animation. Now we're going to make it go from here over to the other side of the screen. So simple point to point, so I don't have to think too much about the position and the movement. I just need to decide how long it's going to take. So I think we'll go for, let's go for 22 seconds, and let's add a keyframe there on 22, and then select the cloud and drag it over to the right. Now I'm not going to make it exactly in line by holding down shift. I'm going to make it change its line, so it's going to go down slightly. And now on this final frame on at 22 seconds, I'm going to change the cloud a bit. So I'm going to zoom into the cloud. So I'm going to select the cloud and make it a little bit grey. We'll see how dark we should go. We'll see how it looks when we apply the tween. And I'm also going to use the selection tool and manipulate the shape a bit, because as we said, clouds change shape when they move. Right, I didn't like that bit, so I'm going to change it. Undo. Now clouds can be any shape, so be as abstract as you want. Okay, let's leave it like that and let's see how it looks. So there's my end point of the cloud on frame at 22 seconds. My starting point is over here. So let's apply the tween. So right click on the timeline, and we're going to go for a shape tween. So let's watch it. So it's moving. I can already see it's going down slightly, and it's got quite dark already. And we can see that it's changing shape a bit, as clouds do, until it gets to the other side of the screen and it goes off. Okay, so I'm happy with that actually. I'm happy with the way that it moves, with the color change as it's getting a bit grayer as it goes across, and also as the shape with the shape morph. I would like to make it a bit longer though, so extend it out from 22 seconds. Let's go for 34. Okay, let's go back to scene 1. Now the cloud's done. I'm happy with that animation. I'm going to lock the cloud layer, and if we look in our library, we've got our flower parts, we've got our cloud and our sun parts. Now, just to be consistent with the flowers, I'm going to make folders for the cloud parts and for the sun parts, though I know there's only one cloud part, so it's not really cloud parts, is it? Okay, so there we go. We've got our library sorted out and arranged neatly. Okay, so let's have a look how it's looking. So if we click play on the top right to test the movie, how is our animation looking? Okay, so there's our mountain range, that's the background. We've got our 6 flowers on the flower layer. We've got our sun on the sun layer rotating. And we've got our cloud moving across the screen and morphing, changing shape and changing color as it goes. So this is all playing in a loop now. So the flowers are just continually rotating and swaying. The sun is just continually rotating. And that cloud is continually looping from right to left, changing color and morphing. But if we go to the main timeline now, which is where we are in scene 1, we can see that the main timeline is made up of just one frame. So look how much animation we've created. All those, the flower animation, the cloud and the sun, all held within one frame on the timeline. Okay, so this shows how we can use nested animations to make really manageable animations to use on the main stage, on the main timeline, that are not affecting the main timeline and not taking up lots of layers or space on the main timeline. Okay, so it's making it much more manageable, because imagine having all those different animations, all those different parts created on this main timeline here. We'd have to have lots of different layers. We'd have to have the length of the main timeline. I think the longest one was out to 40, so it'd be 40 seconds long. So it'd become quite complicated. So nesting those animations inside the symbols has made our main timeline much neater, much more manageable. Plus, we've got those reusable assets that we can bring back and use any time as long as we save the file. Now, there's our animation complete. We've gone through the tutorial to go over how we can animate using nested symbols. And you've got those reusable assets now that you can continue to use. So make sure you save your work. And hopefully you've been able to follow along well and understand the purpose and the point of nesting animations within symbols and why it can be so useful when creating large animations with lots of different objects with lots of different moving parts. That brings this tutorial to an end. Thank you very much for following along with this Technocamps tutorial using Adobe Animate to understand how to create nested symbols. We hope that you found it useful, and hopefully you'll be able to take some of the skills and apply them to your animations that you create. Keep an eye out on our YouTube page for more tutorials on Adobe Animate, plus lots of other tutorials using lots of other tools.